Welcome everyone. Today we have our another new episode, and this episode is very important because we will discuss about VR and AR in real estate. But we have good news. Tomorrow we have a debate. Actually, four world famous speakers: Professor Rob, Professor David Smith, Professor Donalds, and Mr. Marshall will join uh, in this debate. We will do debate on artificial intelligence. I believe that from Asia Pacific, many university news media they will cover our news, and they are very interested about debate. And I'm sure from our debater, especially Professor Rob, Professor David Smith, and all other debaters, our audience will learn very interesting things. Beside that, Monday we have very special show with uh, Professor Jackson from World Toilet Organization. He is one of the famous entrepreneurs in Singapore. He developed with the help of WTO and the other organization. He developed restroom association. It's very famous in the developing world. And you know the developing world needs different things. Toilet and restroom is another interesting things. So hopefully Monday session will be very interesting, and definitely we're going to invite Professor Rob, Professor David Smith, and all other speakers based on their availability. I know now Christmas and New Year, there are vacations. But if they join, it will be very interesting session for Asia Pacific. So, Professor David Smith, we will discuss on AR and VR in real estate. What are your views?
Well, Sharif, thank you so much. AR, VR, as we've talked before, is used in many different markets. And in real estate construction, I think it's an ideal place for it. If you look at just the real estate market globally, it is ranked as a $33.5 trillion marketplace. And you begin to see there that that is worth enough money to get a lot of people intensive and looking at it. Immersive digital technologies such as VR, AR, and the other extensions to it that are happening all the time now is truly transforming the way we design, the way we build, the way we sell, and even the way we maintain real estate. If you look in the drivers of this, traditional video games and the entertainment industry have really led the way in virtual design, but we're really seeing it take off, and particularly in the real estate area. You've heard me in the past talk about how uh, IR and AR is being used heavily in construction. I've mentioned a factory down the street where part of the regulatory process is being done by using augmented reality. Part of how they begin to speed up the constructions using augmented reality to see the piece of machinery in place in the facility without having to really go in and have to do the measurements and the changes and stuff, and they just can see it. you know, to pull more into the pure real estate side, one of the neat trends today is that over 90% of all households have begun real estate searches on the internet, and as opposed to picking up a phone, calling an agent, and going that way. And of that 90% of the people doing that, over 50% of these searches are being made from mobile devices in order to really highlight it. And we're seeing that even going to it as we see it being used in the field. Um, and you're seeing used tons of places. One of the other places besides in the construction side is virtual tours. We've seen this a lot. For example, here in Austin, we have a lot of people moving to Austin from California, from the New York area, from out of the country coming into here. And our agents here have gotten really good at doing virtual tours. And in many ways, these are like having an agent take you through a house, but you're doing it with augmented reality and wearing the helmets and stuff with it and the glasses. And they can also create an interactive online experience too, where the buyers can do this even without the agent and just create these 3D tours. And you can use this for existing properties. You can even use it to show a property that isn't fully built yet, so that you can walk through and see furniture, wall finishes. And of course, you see it used in many other places. One of the applications some agents I know that are really excited about in uh, real estate is the ability to do virtual staging. Most of the time, realtors will tell you an empty property is really hard to sell, and so you hire staging companies to bring furniture and pictures in. While virtual staging is easier too if you're doing the tours in AR. And you're seeing that, and you can do it through many different ways. It's being used in the design process quite a bit today, where architects and engineers have gotten on the wagon to not just design it, but actually see their designs in 3D, to be able to walk through the design to see how would this work before I build it? How would I do this? And to share those designs with customers. So a lot of opportunities going in real estate in this market. We can dive down in some of the deeper ones, but to me, that's a pretty good top level overview.
Thank you, Professor David Smith, Professor Rob. How you want to analyze, and especially Asia Pacific, there are a lot of new construction happening, many new development infrastructures, China Belt and Road Initiative happening. So, especially, what will be the impact of VR and AR? Beside that, if you give some sort of predictions, especially about this Omicron and economical activities.
Well, the pandemic does keep people at home, and having an alternative way to look at real estate other than having to go visit it in person is important. We've had a lot of stories of people that have had well, out here. The housing market's extremely hot in a lot of areas, and there are a lot of stories of people that have bought homes sight unseen and then have gone to the house and found that they were a sight unseen disaster. And so what virtual reality can do is provide you with a way to look at the property and assess whether or not it is a viable property in order for purchase. It does provide also a baseline of what was represented, so that if you find you were cheated by the seller, you can use technology to showcase what you were sold versus what it was you got. Interestingly enough, when we sold our last house in San Jose, and I posted a link in private chat, we used Matterport as one of the sales engines, and Matterport was one of the first of the VR tools to sell houses. And what Matterport does is they bring in a specialist with a camera, and then they scan every single room of the house, and then prospective buyers can go in just via web browser and take a look as if they were in the home. Clearly, early on in virtual reality, you could use a headset too if you wanted, but you can get a sense for what the house is, how the house looks, and you can see from the underlying picture that's basically the entire interior of the home, all three levels, all the rooms and everything else, and you can see what it is you like and what it is you don't like, and you can do some of your early planning with regard to furniture. Now, we sold this house furnished, so this was basically how you got it if you were going to buy the home, and that's how the buyers accepted it, and we sold the home reasonably quickly in what was a much cooler market at the time. But what the technology allowed you to do is really market the portions of the house that stood out. You could show people the views from the windows, the actual views from the windows that you would see if you were in the home. And this home overlooked the city of San Jose and the San Jose airport. And you could also talk to them about what it was you enjoyed about the house. The only thing I kind of regret is I don't think we actually did a full scan of the yard for the home. And the yard was one of the major features of this particular house. We had a very garden like yard that was pretty spectacular on top of the home. But it does allow you to do things remotely, and that means if you're in a different state, a different country, and you're looking at moving in rather than flying in and doing a house tour, you can do a virtual house tour and explore the homes. And as they say, with this COVID event ongoing, it allows you to do house tours without ever leaving the safety of your home and risking catching the virus. The other interesting thing about it in terms of security is our next door neighbors in San Jose also sold their house, but they used regular physical house tours. And what happened is a bunch of kids came in and disabled the locks in the house. And then one of the nights they came in and had a huge destructive party in the house because the door locks have been disabled and did a significant amount of damage. And with virtual tours, people can't go in and damage the home or steal things from the home or create a number of the problems that often occur when you have strangers going through your home. Because a lot of people that tour homes have no interest in buying the home. They're just there to pick up something or sometimes to cause harm or damage. And virtual tours prevent that from happening as well. They do identify homes that may be vacant, which is an ongoing problem, but that happens when you advertise the home anyway. So they're a way to explore property without putting yourself at risk. And they're a way to present the property without putting you or the property at risk, or as much risk as you would have if you had strangers walking through your home at all hours. And remember, with this COVID thing, somebody that's sick comes into your home could contaminate the house, which would be a major problem, because then you'd have to have the house professionally cleaned before you could, in theory, let other people into it, including your family.
Thank you.
Sure.
Professor David Smith, what do you think? Like this COVID actually changed whole economic system, and we have to integrate it with the new technology and economic system. That will be the future, or there will be nothing changing in our life. Only we just.
That's a pretty tough question, because COVID has made dramatic changes, and I think we're going to see many of those dramatic changes continue in the future. If I put on my commercial real estate hat, yes, commercial real estate has changed for quite a bit. I made a comment before that my girlfriend's company went back to the office, and last week 30 people in her office tested positive for COVID. And so you begin to see that, and it's changed the way you put it. Oh, the graphic you're showing now, Sharif, one of the reasons I put that over to you is that one is the other side of what Rob talked about. Rob talked about using the app to sell your house. This is an app that can be used to either build a house or remodel a house using augmented reality. So it kind of goes right now, and what we're seeing in this is we're seeing a whole ecosystem come up in real estate of using these AR tools in every part of the process, even to after the sale and maintaining your house, and using augmented reality to train you to fix stuff, and often on demand. But going back to your question, I think you're going to see many things in the world stay and change because of COVID. We're seeing that in the hospitality industry, very big time. We're seeing that in office place. I think we're going to begin to see it more in retail establishments. I can tell you, I think restaurants are going to change. I think bars and music events are going to change. And I don't see those going back to the way they were anytime really soon. And yes, I do enjoy going to live music, but so many of my friends have gotten sick lately from going to live music events that I canceled one I was going to go to last Saturday night, just because of so many of my friends getting sick lately with COVID, and with some of the new variations of COVID as well. So I think those industries are going to be impacted, and it's going to be hard to go back. I thought, and I've changed my view on those industries since the start of COVID, since the start of the pandemic. I thought we'd see a peak and then it would fall very rapidly, and it's not. We're seeing more and more new variations all the time. Uh, Now, one of the things that might be a good benefit of this latest variation of COVID is it looks like it spreads extremely rapid, and in most instances, it's not severe. So that can maybe begin to help give us some more herd immunity. But with COVID morphing as fast as it's morphing, uh, it's to me not clear how much herd immunity is going to help us in the long run. Because I think it's going to be like the flu. We have different variations of the flu every year. Sometimes what we've built up before helps, sometimes it doesn't. And I think we're going to see the same things with COVID. Uh, and I can see how design, particularly in the real estate industry, particularly in the commercial real estate industry, is going to dramatically change. I can tell you, in my company, we're questioning the needs for as much real estate space as we have now, since so many of us are working digitally. And, does it make sense to spend $100,000 on an office space if you're only going in there for a few meetings and everything else is done remotely? So those are some of the questions I believe that are coming out of this that will impact particularly real estate very hard.
Uh, thank you, Professor Rob. As like technology and the traditional business right now, they are integrated together. Many things happening. So AR, VR definitely this is the futures, especially for the construction or real estate industry. Beside that, uh, like what do you think like how actually developing world can contribute this kind of innovation, how they can contribute, like example how they can participate naturally. What happened, the largest corporation, they develop the technology, example Microsoft develop the technologies and they go to India and they actually generate their business. But is there any opportunity that developing nations also can participate in this process, or is there any opportunity for future?
Well, so the difficulty you've got when you talk about an emerging economy trying to participate in a cutting edge technology is how the hell, if they were to develop it, how would they sell it out of country? The issue with emerging countries is they tend to lack the channels necessary to sell their products overseas. And they don't have the depth of technological competence to create broad product sets that would support such an ecosystem. And so technologies like this are probably better used by emerging economies to create economies of scale or solve particular problems. So if we look at AR and VR as applied to real estate, they can be used to send out untrained people, relatively untrained people, to fix a broad variety of things using centralized resources, who then are able to view what the remote worker is doing and able to advise them on what it is they should do. That can be augmented by artificial reality, excuse me, artificial intelligence. But this is a tool that an emerging economy might be better off using as opposed to initially developing, only because there often are huge skill shortages in these economies, and it's a way to bring skills in from overseas and apply them to an existing workforce without necessarily having to train that workforce up initially. So as a bridge to bring people that aren't trained in using, installing electrical panels or plumbing or whatever, using modern tools to train them in how to do that and make them more efficient. They can also be used as a way to digitally place objects in the real world, and so you can use markers. So they can put on a pair of AR glasses, for instance, and use them to identify where electrical lines are run underground, or where a particular piece of equipment might have been buried, or how to best access that equipment once it's found and has to be repaired. Once again, a good use of the technology that can be applied to people that may not do certain things certain ways. Because a lot of times you've got villages that might have a couple of items like a 5G repeater or a generator box or some type of a distribution panel where you need to get it repaired. You need to get it repaired right away, but there's nobody in that village that knows how to do it. You could use a pair of AR glasses to help them through it, or use VR training to train that population up to do that particular task. Lenovo, for instance, has VR Class 2 is their latest technology. It was a spinoff or a part of their land school effort, which uses VR to train people in a variety of skills. And VR can be used for remote training. You can send the VR headset out with the training material, and the individual can self-train on a particular skill set and then be able to do those skills in a remote area. So let's say, for instance, Musk wanted to deploy Starlink dishes in a remote village. They could send out VR headset and material to people in the village, train them how to do the installations, and then they could do those installations in the village and provide internet service to the village and other training materials through that internet service. But the difficulty in trying to have an emerging country do a cutting edge technology product is building up enough competency in the country and then building up the logistics to sell the technology out of state. And that second step is just as important as the first step, and it's the one that's almost always overlooked. And the emerging economy is pretty much going to chase the emerged area in terms of the technology, and it's very difficult to do that and sell out of country. Now you can do things like nationalize the internal industries, which some countries have done, but that locks out external development and creates another bigger problem going forward. So for something like this, at this phase, it's more a case of using the technology to increase the capability of the local workforce and allowing them to do things they otherwise wouldn't be able to do would probably be the best early on path, unless there's a lab or a school in country that is collaborating and already working and develop the skills on the cutting edge, and then they can collaborate on certain tools and solutions that might uniquely fit a demographic that's a small enough group that a large centralized remote company may not be interested in, but might be very viable and economically beneficial to somebody that's in country and able to do things. So, for instance, that Matterport tool I talked about, that's developed outside, but the people that would actually deploy and use it would be people that are inside the country, local mom and pop shops that can take this tool and scan the houses and buildings that are going to be placed in a VR showcase to sell the underlying properties. Once again, using the tool as opposed to necessarily developing it from scratch.
Excellent, Professor Rob. Actually, that is our objective. That is our objective, World Talent Economy Forum. We are focusing in that way, like we need innovation lab, we need schools. We are working on that particular area. And what you are discussing, this is actually the way of solving the problem. And that's why both of you, Professor David Smith and Professor Rob, you are actually board of advisor. We are communicating with many corporations in the developing world. They are highly interested to join in our lab. Like we have our School of Talent Economy, we have our research centers, even we are publishing high quality research paper. And we need experienced people from corporations like you. If we can mentor the other corporation from the developing world, already we are communicating and discussing with many corporation. Example, they are not too much of advanced, but economically they are solvent. So we are communicating with that kind of corporation. And exactly, Professor Rob and Professor David, what you are discussing, we are trying to do something hopefully soon, maybe from next week, with this Jackson initiative, like this toilet solution, the World Toilet Organizations. We are starting the same things. And definitely, Professor Rob and Professor David Smith, you already popular in Asia Pacific, especially in between our communities. They want more of your contribution, and especially your business contribution will be extremely valuable for the developing world. Professor David Smith, what else you want to add? Because I am really, really happy with this today's discussion. Yeah.
Well, to me, As I look circling into the real estate domain again, you see places where innovation is hopping into this as well. Rob made many excellent comments there and excellent points. Some of the places on the construction side of real estate, I'm going to see, I believe we're going to see a lot more in training. Uh, we are doing some things in my company, whereas we are doing some work in developing nations where we're having to build networks and deploy technology. We're using AR as he described, with sending some HoloLenses down and being able to work with them using augmented reality and using remote learning to do training. And you begin to see that some of the interesting things, though, there's a catch-22 in there, is that the trainees need to gain experience using the equipment, but sometimes it's impractical or unsafe to train them on the real equipment. This is a problem in developing nations, and uh, AR is an excellent tool to begin to use for that. I mentioned before remote maintenance and working with it. I can tell you, as a homeowner, I've experienced that myself lately. Uh, I'm horrible with bringing repairmen in because I'm hard headed enough to know I can fix it. And by using some VR, AR, and just really internet videos, I've been able to fix a number of things where I really had no experience. And I got education, training on demand. And that is part of what I think you're going to see with this. And there. Uh, so on the construction side, I think you're going to see a lot there. I've already mentioned design as a place, and Rob has as well. Um, and as you look at some of your questions, all of these things we're talking about are changing the real estate industry. And as the last question, it's actually beginning to disrupt the industry because one of the other interesting things is the real estate industry, particularly when you're buying a new home or designing, those are not socially distanced jobs. Constructing a home, constructing a building is not a socially distant job site. And this gives you the ability to walk through the job site from even hundreds of miles away. It gives you the ability to cover a lot more ground in a lot less time uh, beginning to do it. Uh, we've already talked about how real estate agents are able to do this. And we're increasingly seeing this used, particularly when people are buying homes from out of town, when they're beginning to do things from out of town. We're seeing it being used in commercial construction where there might be limited expertise. If I'm building a bioscience lab, there's not a lot of construction workers in every town that can understand how to build that type of clean rooms, how to build that type of containment centers, how to do the reverse airflow. And augmented reality is a great way to help them with that. There's some other things that I think are the type of things that will change it in a very different way. If I look at the real estate industry construction, we know that there's a huge shortage of skilled labor, and that many of the older people in the industry are retiring at a faster pace than young ones are coming in, and COVID's partially responsible for that. But part of what the industry is wanting to do with both the construction side and actually the agents and others like that is bring fresh blood in, to bring new people in. And many of the younger people, they are really attracted by technology. And to be able to go and say, in my construction company, we use augmented reality. And you as a client in my real estate company, we use augmented reality to help you throughout every step of the process. It's going to attract a lot more people into those industries, I believe. And you're going to see it increasingly used, particularly in the construction industry, but also in the home buying industry, commercial buying industry side, for virtual collaborations. We are virtually collaborating right now in this media, but if I add augmented reality to it, we can actually have this collaboration where our virtual collaboration could be walking through a construction site. It could be walking through a new office building that we want to modify to be responsive to the new demands of COVID and those elements of it. It might be I want to set up a sales office in 6 different cities. And how can I go to those 6 different cities and see the sales office we want to establish without traveling today? And I believe traveling today is becoming more problematic than better than what we've seen over the last several months. So those are some of the applications I believe, Sharif, and I hope those answered a couple of the questions over in the comment sections.
Thank you, Professor David Smith. We have our new friend, Mr. Harris. Thank you for joining today's sessions. We are actually discussing about AR and VR in real estate. Actually, Professor Rob and Professor David Smith already cover many things, but I want to go to like a request for this question. Ali Ahmed, she asked how AR and VR are changing the real estate industry. From your perspective, I think Professor Rob and Professor David Smith already cover. Yes.
Sure, sure. I think that it's nice to meet you all. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me. I think this is an awesome forum to discuss some of the innovations that are happening in this space. My view is that as we move into immersive computing, the opportunity to understand and visualize and participate in the spaces around us is going to be a lot more accessible to anyone wherever they are in the world. And doing so using immersive technologies like AR and VR are going to make those experiences a lot more compelling. I mean, right now, you can go onto a real estate website and do a video tour, or even one of those 360 photo or video tours as well. And that's only going to get better. So, and those are pretty good right now. I mean, those give you a pretty good sense for what you're seeing or buying. If you're, renting a place, definitely it gives you a lot of confidence. But I think as the technologies get better and you're able to do a full walkthrough, you're able to, really kind of spend time in a place and you have presence, you understand that you feel like you're really there. I think you're going to have a much more connection with your customers if you're a property developer or if you're trying to sell a property, and at the same time, I think that customers have accessibility to a lot more opportunities around the world because they don't have to take the time to travel and go and assess places that they're interested in. They can really get a sense for them. So yeah, I think there's going to be a huge boom in the real estate market directly related to the integration of these technologies. At Superworld, we have a virtual real estate platform where anyone can buy virtual land anywhere in the world, and then therefore have access to a large share of the economics that happen on those places in the world. And, the way that we think about that related to the physical real estate world is, we enable any buyers that are interested in physical real estate to, be able to purchase NFTs and be able to get onto, the physical real estate as well as an owner or buyer or renter. So we're trying to put together the link between virtuality and the physical side, as well as the physical side and virtuality, to really facilitate all of the things that this technology is going to further enable. So that's kind of my high level viewpoint. I think it's going to really revolutionize how we think of the real estate industry. So it's exciting.
Thank you, Professor Ram. I have different question for you. Already, I think most of the question from audience, all of you cover. Especially industrial research, let's say for VR and AR, is very important. What is your advice for developing worlds? Because I believe they have to invest more on research. What is your advice for not only for academy but also for government and corporation?
Well, so where this is going is into the metaverse. The metaverse is an overarching concept that will wrap most of these things into eventually into a more seamless ecosystem, where you can go from virtual property to virtual property, and you can use an ever increasing variety of tools to both access the content and to create the content. And where this metaverse will go, at least initially, is in the area of simulation and emulation, so that you can take a look at a plant site, even a city, and plan it out virtually first. See where the shadows are going to be, see where the problem areas are going to be, see where the things that you don't see when you're just looking at plans, but those things that are going to create problems are, so you can correct them before the buildings go up. The current level of technology we can emulate everything from the physical aspects of the structure, including the textures and colors, to the lights, the shadows, even the physics of the environment, and do an awful lot of the work that otherwise would occur after the building was built, to validate its safety before the building is built, and therefore make the overall process far less expensive and far safer. There are a lot of problems in emerging countries with regard to substandard construction, and this is a way to explore a plan for a building before the building is built, and to better compare what is actually built to what the plan said was required. It doesn't necessarily address some of the problems like substandard concrete, or the inability to seal metal properly so that it doesn't rust within the concrete. We've had clearly a lot of problems with reinforcement rusting, like rebar rusting out and causing issues, not only in emerging countries, but we've had those issues in Florida recently as well, that this technology won't address yet. But it can address certain things like improper designs, people that have cut corners and not put in joists or supports properly. An inspector can go in with a set of AR glasses with the virtual representation of the building as an overlay, and immediately see where things weren't done properly. There are an awful lot of people doing construction right now, both in the emerged and emerging world, that are not properly trained, and the stories of improperly set joists, improperly constructed supports, and shear walls that aren't. Shear walls are problematic in areas where you have earthquakes, or you have weather events that may stress the building. So it is a way to better assure, for inspectors to better assure construction, and for somebody that's having a building built to assure that many of the problems that otherwise might require expensive change notices to be addressed before the building is actually built, and which makes the structure not only safer, but cheaper to build, and it can make the inspector's job far easier. Being aware, of course, that it doesn't necessarily mitigate a number of the problems we also have with regard to graft and bribery, which can occur with inspectors as well, which has to be addressed outside. But at least if you can contain some of the overt bad activity, this technology can result in better, cheaper, and even faster built buildings, because you're not having to undo things that were improperly done.
Thank you, Professor Rob. Professor David Smith, my last question like that, what is your advice for different startup those who trying to develop VR and AR, specifically Asia Pacific. Even many company I know from Singapore, from China, even from Malaysia, they are trying to develop these solutions. Uh, so, what is your advice for them?
Sharif, I think we're already beginning to see the beginnings of it being used in the real estate industry in developing nations. One of the internal links I posted to you is how India is reshaping the real estate market there by using augmented reality and virtual reality. And when we're seeing it there. But I think there is a lot of opportunities that can be unique and customized to the environment they're being created in. Many of the early environments were, and I hate the term, but I'm going to use it, were geeky environments where you had to almost be very computer savvy to use them. Now we're seeing that the needs for that going away as you're developing more consumer friendly applications, as you're beginning developing more worker friendly applications. There's companies which are developing, and there needs to be more of this. Let me call them hardened uh, lenses and helmets and things to use, particularly in places like the construction industry. I know of an instance where they were using halo lenses, and in the construction environment, they were not lasting very long. So I think there's opportunities for entrepreneurship in the hardware side, particularly the display side. I think there's a lot of entrepreneur opportunities in integrating augmented reality with the sensors and everything that were being developed through the Internet of Things, where you begin to create more the metaverse, like Rob talked about, where you're tying the sensors, the physical world, the digital world together. And that's going to be a place where a lot of entrepreneurship activity can happen. And the ability to develop low cost Internet of Thing type sensors is really perfectly positioned for developing nations today. Construction industry outside, a lot of opportunities for advancement there. You know, I I expect us to see the the digitalization of the construction industry to go way up. I think you're going to see more of the use of digital twins in the construction industry as we go, in more modeling simulation than we've ever done in the construction industry and the design industry before in the real estate area. A lot of entrepreneurship activities can be there. And we're beginning to see homes printed now with 3D printers. And again, that a lot of entrepreneurship activities there, but using an AR VR system, even with 3D printing in real estate, is such a new trend that you're going to have a lot of opportunities for advancements in science, advancement in technologies, advancement in entrepreneurship, and also challenges for governments on how to regulate that, how to begin to put standards in place around that. So I believe a lot of opportunities all around the board.
Thank you. Mr. Hirish, if I'm not wrong, I'm sorry about that. Actually, like, what is your advice for the entrepreneur, especially in the COVID-19 situation? Many new startup developing in the Asia Pacific, even those who are trying to solving this real estate problem. What is your advice and how they can make better business? Can you unmute, please?
Sorry. Yeah, I think that my advice for startup entrepreneurs that want to get into this space should really look at opportunities where there are, big structural problems that they can help, kind of help utilizing these technologies fix those problems. I think there's a variety of areas here that could be very interesting as these technologies continue to get developed and improve. And per Rob's assertion about the metaverse, I think that's a really great place to jump in due to the interest in the market, as well as just the fact that technology is getting better and therefore enabling the metaverse to finally come into being. I think Web3 blockchain is another area that I would think is a good spot for entrepreneurs to look into. I think the utilization of DAOs and other structures like NFTs could also be interesting for entrepreneurs. So again, I think that there's like a few different kind of verticals within the overall real estate space. Utilizing AR, VR technology and blockchain and Web3 and others that I think are interesting areas for entrepreneurs to jump into. And then I think it's just a matter of, I always say you got to figure out who you're going to work with and, who's passionate about that idea. And if the idea has legs, talk to smart people and figure out, what makes sense, and then go out and just put something together. So, but yeah, that's my thought on that. There's a lot of opportunities in space, so it's very exciting.
Thank you. Professor Rob, what is your advice for the startup and new entrepreneurs?
Well, if you're going to use this technology, you're going to use it as a practitioner. If you use use Matterport for an example, what you'll do is you'll create a relationship with Matterport, get the camera, get the training, and then do the scanning yourself. Market yourself as somebody that can create a VR representation of a property, and then go out and start doing that. You'll have to undoubtedly do a few of them for free to let people know what it is you do and create an initial portfolio, but then use that to expand into other areas. But the best way to build a business is find an AR platform or VR platform that you like, one that will integrate well with the tools in your area. Might take some time talking to some of the realtors to see what the market's like and what kinds of tools might work best for their prospective customers, and what types of applications those customers might view this through. The real estate applications can differ country to country, and so once you get an idea of what the ecosystem is, then you have a better idea of what technology to align yourself with, and then go out and create a customer base and go and do things. As I say, the best opportunity in an emerging economy is actually to make use of these tools as opposed to develop them. But once you become comfortable with the tools, it does provide a baseline that you could use to develop tools in the future if you needed, or code or accessories that might be unique to that specific market. So for instance, if you're in a market that is very humid, may very well be that you need a camera solution that is much more resistant to humidity than what's sold in other countries. And you might come up with an idea for a case or even a different camera design that might work better in country. It wouldn't be a huge market. It would be a market that exists in your vicinity, in your area, that you could defend, and then maybe license that technology out to somebody else that has to do the same thing in a different country as a way to get additional revenue. But think through it first. Look for the opportunity, define the opportunity, then look for the tool, train on the tool, and then go into business. That would be my advice.
Thank you, Professor David Smith, Professor Rob, and Rish for joining today's session. This is really great session. I want to share tomorrow's session. Tomorrow's session will be very important because we will arrange the debate. Professor David Smith, Professor Rob, Professor Donald, as well as Mr. Marshall will join in the debate. Our debate topic will be this: house believe that humanity should fear advances in artificial intelligence. So definitely, this is very important. Already, we are working with some university. They are also collaborating with World Talent Economy Forum. Some famous universities like IIUM Oratory Club, They are also collaborate with World Talent Economy Forum, those who win Oxford Ivy and the Cambridge Ivy. So many popular organizations, they are supporting this initiative. We will arrange a series, and we need professional debater like Professor Rob and Professor David Smith. Even Rish, if you want, you can join in the future. But we believe that through debating, through open dialogue, through different kind of critical analysis, developing world definitely get lot of benefit. I'm sure our audience, especially the youth communities, the government, and the policymaker institution, they get many different views. That is our objective. World Talent Economy Forum always want to work with the developing world, and definitely I want to give special thanks to our speakers, those who regularly join in World Talent Economy Forum, support our initiative, and share their views and knowledge from their corporation. And definitely, we want to build up our innovation lab. Already with the University Japan, we are working. They already doing their second lab in Adelaide. So hopefully, we will launch another lab with them. And our speakers, those who join regularly, they will be our mentors. They will be mentor for our audience, and through this process, we can learn more things. So thank you everyone for joining today's session. I request all of our audience, please share our content with your government, with your corporations and academy. Now I directly want to go for the concluding remarks. First, I want to request Mr. Rish for your concluding remarks.
Yeah. So, again, thanks again for having me here. I think that the technology that are going to be very pertinent to this industry are continuing to evolve and grow as we discussed. And the penetration in the market of these technologies is also increasing exponentially because of the fact that more and more, people around the world are adopting either smartphones that are AR enabled, getting into VR headsets. Soon, hopefully, we'll be in AR glasses. And so we're moving very fast on the hardware side, on the software side, on the market penetration side. And so this industry is really evolving super fast. And so, I would say that any entrepreneurs, anyone interested in these topics should jump in. Definitely come and check out what we're doing at Superworld. We've built a virtual world on top of the real world. So if you have an interest in doing that, if you want to work with us, I'd love to, anyone here in the audience who's listening, contact me directly, CEO@superworldapp.com. Come to our website. You can buy virtual land and get right on board and start doing stuff. So again, really support everyone out there who's working in this industry and would love to work with you. So that's my message. I think we all work together as a team to kind of build this industry up. So I'm excited about the future.
Thank you. Professor Rob, what's your concluding remarks?
Sure. AR and VR can enhance a number of industries. Real estate's only one of them. It's most effectively used in an emerging economy for training and for deployment and use, not for creation at this particular phase. So you could do things like create a joint effort to create a metaverse property, for instance, that could be a representation of your company, of your state, of your county, of your city. Would be an interesting way to play this, and certainly it's a very effective tool, potentially very effective tool in terms of planning to build pretty much anything of scale. And even if you're planning on doing a remodel of your home, this is a way to plan the remodel before anybody actually picks up a hammer, as I personally discovered. It's a far cheaper way to do things than if you start building something and decide, oh yeah, you don't like that, you need to change it, because it's far cheaper to change something virtually than it is to change something physically. But it's an interesting area. It's emerging. A skill set or a blended skill set, like many of these emerging technologies, would be one that blends engineering with virtual reality, some basic understanding of it, so you can understand how you're going to to create the tools and use the technology in real estate and in construction. And also, as you're looking at the tools, somebody that was an active real estate agent that learned the state of the art with regard to VR and AR would be better able to recommend which technologies will work in the geography in which you occupy. So this is another area where a bridge skill set could be very handy. In the end, this is a way for people to do things far more safely, far more cheaply, and far more effectively than they currently do them using physical constructs. And so it's a great way to save money and to advance your career and capability into the new world of technology.
Thank you, Professor Rob. Professor David Smith, what's your concluding remarks?
I love seeing the digital world and the physical world and the virtual worlds all combining. And that's what we're seeing with the topic you have today. Recently, one of the companies in France has said they have formed the first real estate holodeck, like the holodecks that you have in the science fiction shows and things. And I think that's just an indication of what's possible, where things we thought with in the past are becoming reality today. Now, I'm looking forward to the time when we can begin to use in real estate this technology, not by having to wear a helmet and glasses, but being able to use holograms and be able to walk through the facility in our own homes and be able to see that in that environment as well. So there's a lot of opportunities going forward, a lot of opportunities to be creative, to be innovative, to build up on the technology like Rob has talked about, but also to create and innovate new approaches and new technology as well. So it's an area that I'm very bullish on, and I believe we will continue to see it rapidly evolve over the next decade to take forms that we cannot even imagine today. So Sharif, that's my concluding remarks. And thank you for having me part of it.
Thank you. Thank you for joining today's session. So I request all of our audience, tomorrow we have a big day. We will arrange the debate. And this debate is very, very important for create awareness for artificial intelligence. Yes, World Talent Economy Forum actually focus on modern science, engineering, and technology. So our famous speakers, Professor Rob, Professor David Smith, Professor Donald, and Mr. Marshall will join in the debate. Definitely, I'm sure many university students and academicians, as well as media, they are interested to know more about artificial intelligence from this debate. And beside that, it will be very good opportunity from the developing world. They can understand how actually the speakers actually bring different views, different opinions in a specific topic. This is also very, very important for our audience. And by this way, we can develop a knowledge-based community in Asia Pacific and in the developing world. Thank you everyone for joining today's sessions. Thank you. Bye-bye and take care. Hopefully tomorrow's session will be very effective for all of our audience. Thank you.
Thank you.